It was past midnight, the type of late where secrets are kept hidden, hushed activities tainted under veils of darkness. The night sky bled into a gentle navy tone, and my fingers hesitated over the steering wheel as if it had lost their trust. My arms stayed rigid, not from stress, but from disbelief. I wasn't navigating. I was stationary, positioned in front of a red brick townhouse with well-manicured hedges and a flickering porch light that seemed to bear a confession. Madison's car was there, not at Claire's place, not at the dinner she hadn't mentioned until 20 minutes before leaving, not at her mother's, as she had said last week when she returned with smeared makeup and a breath-flavored knot of wine but cinnamon and deception. This wasn't an instant, it was a revelation. I didn't encounter an epiphany through dramatic circumstances, such as discovering her with another man or finding a flirtatious message on her phone. Instead, this was merely confirmation of changes that had already been happening. Previously, Madison would text me during work hours to express her longing for me. Now her phone is incessantly buzzing, and she avoids looking at it as if it's radioactive. She no longer engages in arguments, and the distance between us has become apparent only when I realize I've been shouting into a canyon with no response. She stopped asking about my day, letting go of my hand in the car, taking off her ring, claiming it was too tight. Lately, she's been dressing differently, not out of a desire to look better, but rather strategically, wearing clinging tops and glossing her lips as if waiting for someone or something. I knew intuitively before accepting the knowledge. The most distressing aspect is that I recognized it before acknowledging it myself. Dear friends, if you enjoy this story, please like and subscribe to our channel. It will motivate us to make more videos like this for you. You feign error, since acknowledging the truth would imply that all you constructed was a structure destined to fracture. That night, I trailed her. I hadn't foreseen being such a person. I detested it. Sitting 3 cars away from hers in traffic with my lights off, I clung to the steering wheel as if to prevent myself from drifting away. She didn't once look back, casually pulling into that townhouse driveway as if it were ordinary, as if she belonged there. The porch light flickered twice, then again. She neither knocked nor texted. Instead, she entered with a key, spelling out F-I-N-G, a key. I remained in the car. I didn't confront her at the door. I stayed put, observing, not weeping, not raging, merely immobilized in the most agonizing manner. My jaw was locked so tight it throbbed. My right foot tapped the brake repetitively as if trying to pacify me. All I required was one reason not to erupt. 1. 10 minutes later, she texted, "Madison, I'll call you after dinner." I fixated on it for a full minute. She simply spoke and departed, as if we were at a sushi bar with an acquaintance, not playing pretend in someone else's home while I sat outside like a stray dog. I remained silent. I navigated my contacts, found her name, erased it, blocked the number, subsequently switched my carrier service, all before dessert was even served. She had already forfeited the ability to reach me. She would call back later, undoubtedly, laughing, feigning exhaustion from a busy day. Perhaps she'd lazily declare, "I love you," on her way to wash someone else off her body. But this time there'd be no response, no Kyle, just quietude. That silence, me leaving her in it. I didn't sleep that night, not for even a second. It wasn't the typical kind of insomnia where your mind wanders aimlessly in circles and you awaken feeling as if you might have dreamed something. Instead, my eyes were wide open, tensed, and shallowly breathing. 2:12 a.m. I found myself in bed, fully dressed, contemplating the unchanged crack in the ceiling paint, the promise we made to mend during springtime last year, a reminder of the silences we once shared. Now I despised that crack, taking pleasure in its persistence. The phone screen flashed with an unknown number. She was dialing. It shouldn't have been surprising. After all, I had initiated the conversation with customer service earlier to change my number. Yet I felt void, as if I had lost something irreplaceable, my keys in a storm drain. I awaited her call, hoping for relief or empowerment, but instead felt nothing but emptiness. The call rang through, then faded away. No message, no text, just silence. That moment marked the first time I recognized that she wasn't reaching out to confess. She was attempting to manipulate the narrative, to deceive me again, to present a flimsy alibi and feign affection, as if the decay beneath the floorboards didn't exist. The next day, I packed a solitary bag. Essential items only, a few necessities, my toothbrush, my passport. No need to inquire about motive. I didn't know my destination, but it seemed necessary to depart from this continent for some fresh air. I left behind my wedding ring on the bathroom sink. Not for dramatic flair, I only noticed later. She arrived home at 8:36 a.m. I was still in the kitchen, resting against the counter with a cold coffee I'd poured hours prior. As soon as the door opened, she paused. Madison entered with an upright demeanor, wearing sunglasses inside and over-curled hair, which suggested deliberate timing. She gave off a citrusy and alien scent, not our usual body wash or her signature vanilla perfume, rather a cologne-like fragrance. We didn't converse. Her gaze shifted between my bag and me. "Kyle, what is this?" she asked, her voice slightly strained, not with remorse, but annoyance, as if I was disturbing her somehow. I remained silent. She removed her sunglasses and placed them carefully on the table. "Are you off to some place?" I scrutinized her for a while. Then, coldly, "You were at his residence." She blinked, expressionless. "Nothing." Then a derisive chuckle. She laughed. "Wow, it seems so. You've been tailing me now." "No," I retorted. "I merely knew where you'd be." Her countenance stiffened. She folded her arms. "I was at Claire's." "Try another guess." Madison advanced towards me. Her voice took on a menacing tone. "You've been behaving erratically for weeks, showing signs of paranoia and possessiveness. Are you checking my phone now? Or are you tracking my car with GPS?" This caught me off guard. She didn't even try to refute it. Instead, she diverted the discussion, as if she had rehearsed this response. That was what made me feel sick. It wasn't fear in her voice. It was calculation. "I saw you enter," I stated. "You have a key. You didn't knock. You just walked in as if it were yours." "Fine," she retorted angrily. "So, maybe I was at someone's house, a friend's. Does that mean I'm sleeping with him? That's what you assume of me. You don't even deny it." She turned her back to me. She breathed out heavily. Hands on her waist, she sighed. "This is draining." I glanced at my trembling hands. "You promised to contact me after dinner." I whispered back, keeping my voice low. "I heard you. You didn't realize I was on the line. Yet I heard your promise. It wasn't meant for me." A pause. For the first time, her expression softened slightly, but not from regret. It was strategic. Her lips parted, as if to utter a tear or a lie veiled in sincerity. But instead, she said, "That wasn't your concern. That was it. That sentence is what shattered me. Not the affair, not the deceit, not the second toothbrush I later discovered in her gym bag. That sentence." I gazed at her as if I no longer recognized her, because I didn't. I passed her by, carrying my bag. She made no attempt to stop me, nor did she try to hold me back or call my name. As I opened the door, she murmured, "You're overreacting." I didn't reply. I simply stepped out, shut the door, and allowed the silence to consume her instead. I stayed near, not far away. For hours, the road droned beneath me like a somber funeral procession, and I had no destination in mind. The air inside my house felt suffocating with her presence. With each wall still reverberating with remnants of her secrets shared with someone else, it became unbearable. By 3 p.m., I found myself at a rundown motel beside the highway, its neon sign dimly flickering. A place where walls were paper-thin and the sheets carried the scent of bleach and cigarettes. Using cash and withholding any identification, I secured a room without scrutiny. The clerk handed me a key to room 12 and warned that the ice machine was out of order. My indifference was obvious as I took the key. I settled on the lumpy mattress for a prolonged period, merely gazing at the stained carpet beneath me. Unshed tears remained as I awaited any sign from her, hoping for an apology or even a fabricated excuse. But there was none. It was then that the reality of my absence resonated within me. She hadn't bothered to check. No missed calls, no knocks on the motel room door, no efforts to salvage what we had. Madison didn't seem to mind my departure. On the contrary, she appeared relieved. This was the most painful realization. Not the hurt from betrayal or dishonesty, but the indifference. What grieved me deeply was her nonchalance in letting go, as if I were an unnecessary piece of furniture or a faulty lamp in the corner she chose not to repair. I began replaying our interactions, not just the recent weeks, but years. The coldness hadn't emerged suddenly. It had crept in, unnoticed by me. Her affection didn't vanish overnight. It gradually withered away. I ignored the chilling decrease of "I love yous." The eye rolls during our discussions, the feigned laughter at my jokes, the preference for going out over staying in, all became evident as I looked back. The days she'd return home without a greeting, the excuses for being too busy, the lies that started to surface. These were the events that stung. I recalled last month. I inquired about our anniversary plans, only to receive a perplexed gaze, reminiscent of being asked to perform accounting tasks. She responded, "I have a business trip scheduled that week. Haven't I mentioned?" Initially, she hadn't, but I accepted it anyway. Just as I had accepted her excuses about working late, prioritizing Claire, gym restrictions on partners, and the supposed work-provided cologne sample. I had swallowed all these tales because I wanted to believe them. Now, I found myself in a musty-smelling motel room, clutching a plastic cup of tap water, contemplating how I allowed myself to become so insignificant. Exactly at 9:40 p.m., her name appeared on my screen, but it wasn't her. It was an unknown number sending a message. "Where the hell are you?" No punctuation, followed by two anxious queries and a plea for conversation. I chose not to respond, instead silencing my phone. For the first time in a while, I let myself envision a world devoid of Madison. No more echoes of her laughter, no lingering sense of her perfume, not even a trace of who I once believed she was. Just an eerie quietness, a chance to begin anew. She asked, "Where the hell are you?" But I suspect inside her, she had already guessed. I was in a place she couldn't access anymore. The walls of this motel were thin enough to hear the man next door coughing all night, harsh and rattling sounds as if his lungs were collapsing. Perhaps he'd murmur something, perhaps to someone on the phone, or maybe to no one at all. I spent most of the night awake, my mind unwilling to rest. I observed the ceiling, a new one this time with peeling paint, a water stain in the corner shaped like a broken heart. By morning there were 12 missed calls, 9 from unknown numbers, 3 from my brother, none from her name. She hadn't contacted using her genuine number, which conveyed a clearer message than any words she could have spoken. She was aware that I had blocked her, recognized I had changed my number, understood my seriousness. What followed? She dispatched him to message me. At exactly 6:41 a.m., a text appeared. New number, no name displayed, only "you're being irrational." After our conversation, it took me a moment to recall something. Many months ago, before all this transpired, I noticed a number flashing on her car's dashboard screen as we were traveling. It was Derek M. I asked who it was. She said he was a graphic designer they had hired for a single project. She described him as bothersome and overly talkative, someone who wouldn't leave her alone. "Hardly know the guy," she said. That was Derek. So now, Derek served as her proxy messenger, telling me I was being irrational. I chose not to respond. I erased the message and switched off my phone. Later, I entered the car and drove aimlessly. My lease for my bachelor apartment had long expired. Unable to endure the barrage of questions at my parents', I instinctively headed towards the beach, a place Madison detested due to her discomfort with sand. For her, it was unclean, while for me, it was the symphony of the waves that silenced my thoughts. En route, I passed our favorite diner from our first year together, a quaint spot known for its worn booths, subpar coffee, and exceptional waffles. We'd spend hours there discussing everything and nothing, with her doodling on napkins, playing footsie under the table, and gazing at me as if I were the only man in existence. I stopped there, but the place remained unchanged. The same faded signage, the same weary-eyed waitress adorned with excessive eyeliner. She didn't acknowledge my presence, or if she did, she chose not to speak about it. I ordered coffee and eggs I had no intention of consuming. In that very booth, I reminisced about when Madison had confided that you were the most secure place she'd ever known. Yet here I was, watching the minutes tick by as she was in another's home, using an unbeknownst key, calling someone else post-dinner. The cause could have been the stillness or the scent of cheap syrup, but I crumbled, not with a spectacle, no shouting, no wall punching. Instead, I just sat there, tears tracing down my face in quiet, calculated sorrow. My hands were motionless, my face stoic. It was an unadulterated cry, the kind that feels like capitulation, the kind that drains you from within. In time, I settled the bill, left cash on the table, and ventured back outside. My phone vibrated once more. Unidentified caller. "She's crying. Could you just phone her?" I ignored it. I stood in the parking lot, wind piercing my shirt, gazing skyward at a night too luminous for the gloom within me. I understood something then. If she was weeping now, it wasn't for me. It wasn't remorse. It was terror. Fear of revealing her false narrative, fear of being unmasked, fear of needing to account for her husband's mysterious vanishing act. Allow her to cry. Let her dwell in the quietness she created. She had chosen her spectators. Now let her perform for him. I got back into the car and drove away. Somewhere distant, somewhere sterile, somewhere untouched by her. 2 days elapsed. 2 days without her voice reaching me, without her name illuminating my phone screen. And still, she seemed omnipresent. Every blasted thing I encountered, smelled, heard, it all brought her back. The gas station by the highway continued to sell those tart peach gummies she used to snack on during road trips. The radio played that irritating song she would sing off-key when drunk. Even the wind, when it suddenly gusted, reminded me of the nights spent on the porch with her head on my shoulder, a blanket covering us, whispering meaningless words. You don't comprehend how deeply intertwined your life is with someone until they are absent, or even when they remain but no longer belong to you. For 2 additional nights, I remained at that motel, not for comfort, but to avoid returning to a place where her scent still permeated the sheets. I couldn't bear to open our wardrobe and see her dresses, those revealing, slim-fitting garments that I now understood were not meant for me. I couldn't sit on our couch and ponder how many times she messaged him from it while I was in the kitchen preparing dinner. I yearned for space. However, on the 3rd night, I succumbed. I accessed her old iPad. The Apple ID hadn't been altered. I knew the password. She had always used the same one, a reminder of the day her father left her when she was 8 years old. Life can be cruel. As soon as I logged in, messages poured in like venom. I shouldn't have read them. I knew I shouldn't. But I needed to feel the pain. Not for the sake of truth, but because I desired it to wound me. I required conclusive evidence. There it was found. A message thread titled, "Derek's Speech Balloon Fire Dot." Each communication served as confirmation. The information wasn't recent. It dated back months. At first, it began with friendly exchanges and playful banter. However, it evolved into explicit discussions, descriptions, plans, and shared experiences, activities that included both of them. She sent him pictures, images I had never previously viewed. These were taken in the bathroom I had painted and the bed where I used to rest. The statement that struck me hard was, "Madison, if only I'd met you first." I read it repeatedly, unable to determine how long I remained frozen, staring at those words. My chest felt scorching and constricted, as though something within sought to escape. I didn't yell or toss the iPad. Instead, I merely switched it off and placed it carefully on the motel dresser, treating it like a bomb I wished not to detonate again. She expressed regret for meeting him afterward, encapsulating everything we had been through together. Years of memories, laughter, journeys, disagreements. Forgiveness seemed inconsequential in light of this revelation. I felt like a mere prelude, overshadowed by the main act's arrival. Stepping outdoors, my feet touched the frosty pavement, and I gazed at the uninviting, overcast sky devoid of stars, merely adorned with clouds and streetlights. In that dismal expanse, I vocalized what had long been unspoken. She doesn't care for you. The words left a bitter taste on my tongue, yet they held truth. Not because she voiced it, not because she chose another, because those who genuinely love can't deceive so effortlessly, so complacently, so persistently. Love isn't accommodating, it's unyielding, and it most certainly doesn't fit snugly amid work engagements and social outings. I stood there for an extended moment. Then I returned indoors. I gathered my scant belongings, retrieved my keys, and checked out without a fuss. Only the quietness and the rumble of my car in the darkness echoed through the night. She didn't deserve a farewell. She had already bid adieu. All she seemed to have forgotten was that I hadn't returned home, not just yet. Instead, I secured a temporary accommodation in another town, neatly arranged, spotless, forgettable yet comforting, a room with a bed, bland walls devoid of the past, no recollections. It was blissful. I left my bag untouched in the corner and stood there at the entrance, listening to the silence's drone. No steps echoed from upstairs. No door hinges creaked as closets opened. No sound of her brushing teeth in another room. Just me. It was the first place I had been in weeks that didn't feel haunted. But the tranquility didn't linger long. By the second day, messages began arriving again. A different number, yet the tone undeniably hers. "Anonymous, I recognize what you perceive. This doesn't have to conclude this way. I simply need to clarify. Once more, I heard that voice. Madison's. The one she employed when peddling a lie yet making it appear as kindness. The same voice she employed when she minimized the car crash during senior year as merely a bump, and when she expressed uncertainty about marrying me the night before our wedding but proceeded undeterred. The identical tone that echoed then. I remained silent, yet found myself fixated on the screen long enough to feel nausea rising in my throat. Another followed, unsigned. It meant nothing. It was merely, I felt adrift. You've been distant lately. I didn't know how to engage you anymore. That statement, that jab hidden within a confession. I'd been distant? I had been the one supporting her through her panic attacks, comforting her after her grandfather's funeral as she sobbed into my chest, taking on overtime shifts when she considered leaving her job and searching for herself. I was always present, persistently, but I was distant? No. What she truly meant was, I ceased to provide a convenient cover for deceit. I began to observe, started inquiring. Drawing out hidden secrets, she found herself exposed and unable to conceal them further. There was no regret about her actions, only remorse for getting caught. Once more, I silenced my phone and placed it face down. I wouldn't let her invade the sanctity of this place. Yet, an hour later, there was a knock on the door. 3 quick, sharp taps that held a haunting familiarity. I recognized that sound. My heart sank. Approaching the door, I stood motionless, not moving or breathing, merely listening. Then came her voice, soft, calculated. It was Kyle. Can we discuss something, please? She had found me. I'm unsure how she managed, perhaps by tracing my card or guessing, or perhaps Derek had a tech-savvy acquaintance. The method didn't matter. She was here. Peering through the peephole, there she was, her hair tied back, no makeup, wearing a hoodie that wasn't hers, looking pale and puffy, as though on the brink of despair. Good. She knocked again. I can see you're in there. I noticed your car. Now she trembled, fidgeted. For the first time in years, she appeared uncertain. The woman I encountered from college, who lacked definitive answers and lacked fortification, had vanished. She was no longer there. In her place stood a stranger adorning the physique of someone I once cherished. I declined to answer. Instead, I retreated gradually, allowing her voice to dwindle into the walls. Let her call, let her plead, let her experience the emptiness she had cultivated. That tranquility? It was mine now. She remained outside for approximately 10 minutes. Inside, I stood firm, pressing myself against the wall, breathing calmly, in sync with each echo of her knuckles against the door. Tap, tap, silence, tap, whisper. Then nothing. At the 11th minute, I heard her footsteps recede down the corridor. A pause. Then the elevator signaled. She was gone. Yet she had left something behind. An envelope. Slim, white, creased once. Discreetly placed beneath the door like a silent missive. I did not seize it immediately. Instead, I fixated on it for a considerable duration. This was her strategy. Paper wounds instead of blows. Allow myself to wound from my own curiosity. Let me unseal the letter. Choose to read her unsaid words. In due course, I found myself seated at a modest table, unfolding it. 3 sentences lay before me. I made a mistake. I recognize I don't deserve you, but I never ceased loving you. The page bore no signature, date, or my name at the top. A generic, anemic apology graced its lines. Enough guilt to feign humanity, yet insufficient for the actions committed. She declared her continued affection. Let us discuss that. Love transcends a mere utterance when one is foundering in one's own chaos. It is demonstrated by deeds when nobody watches. It is steadfastness when it's arduous. It is not sending messages to another man expressing longing while lying next to your spouse. That is not love. That is cowardice, adorned in lingerie. I gathered the note, discarding it without ceremony. This was the moment I understood something different. She harbored no genuine remorse, only regret. And there's a significant distinction. Regret signifies being caught. Shame signifies the harm inflicted. She never once inquired about my well-being, never uttered a word of remorse for causing pain. I acknowledge that I shattered you, and I don't expect forgiveness. Her intention was to alleviate discomfort, not to express longing for me. That night, I didn't sleep, didn't watch TV, didn't scroll through my phone. Instead, I sat on the floor, dwelling on all the moments she rewrote. The supposed help to her sister on the weekend, the emergency calls that interrupted our dates, the increasing need for solitude, each instance of touch and thought of him, every time she feigned exhaustion rather than admitting she had expended her energy elsewhere before reaching me. It all hit me at once, a tidal wave in my chest. Then I turned on my laptop, not to monitor her online presence or respond to her messages, but to confront the truth. I initiated a fresh document and typed this sentence: "You can't claim me because you lost him." It was an outpouring from then on. Not a letter, not a warning, merely the truth. She departed from me several months prior to my departure. She didn't muster the courage to express it then, and now she sought reconciliation, to reclaim me like an item forgotten at a gathering. But I'm not an item left where she abandoned me. I'm not the man she walked away from. I am what remains after she incinerated everything we once were. This time, there's no return. The following day, she resurfaced again. Not at the door this time, but by my car. I saw her from the lobby window as I was descending to fetch a bottle of water. She was resting against the hood, arms crossed tightly across her chest, donning that bulky coat she only wore when she wished to appear diminutive, inoffensive, the type of manipulation that doesn't necessitate words. For a moment, I stood there watching her through the glass. She wasn't weeping. She wasn't shouting. She stood patiently, giving off an air as if I were the debtor. I exited deliberately, calm as a man venturing into a tempest with nothing more to lose. She glanced up and called out, "Kyle," followed by a near whisper, "Could we just chat?" I remained silent, only reaching for the car door and its handle. She positioned herself between me and it. "Please." Her customary invocation that once undid me now bounced off my chest like electricity. I scrutinized her visage. Not the polished one she flaunted on Instagram, nor the charming one she employed to impress others. The genuine one, etched with fatigue, damaged, the corners curling under like scorched parchment. She hesitated before speaking again, but I halted her. "Why him?" Her expression froze upon hearing this question that had gnawed at me for every minute of every day since the revelation. She blinked, once, twice, then admitted, "Because he made me feel noticed." My laughter emerged, not joyful but breathless with astonishment. "I noticed you daily," I replied. "I selected you daily. You were mine." She confessed, her voice faltering now, but it began unintentionally, so insignificant that I barely noticed. Yet I couldn't cease the act. It had materialized. She was unable to halt, as if she was under a spell, as if she stumbled and plunged into a lengthy deception, as if I was at fault for not preventing her from sinking in her own choices. I circumvented her and opened the car door. She grasped my arm. "Kyle, please. I'm sorry. I didn't realize how lost I was." I faced her, eyes expressionless. "You didn't wander off course," I told her. "You departed." She offered no response. The wind was biting that morning. Her hair lashed against her face as she gazed down, hand returning to her side. For the first time since I had known her, she seemed small in a way that was not feigned. But it came too late. "I can't be your alternative," I declared, "not after dedicating years to being your priority." Then I climbed into the car, ignited the engine, and departed. I didn't check the rearview mirror. I didn't look back. I'm unsure if she remained there, standing in the parking lot like a girl anticipating a bus that never appeared. Irrelevant. For months, she dismantled me in the darkness. Now, she sought daylight absolution. Yet, here's the point. Not all apologies are opening doors. They're monuments. That discussion wasn't resolution. It was burial. After abandoning her in that parking lot, I drove aimlessly once more. However, this time it felt distinct. Not as though I was fleeing, but rather carving out space. Each mile separating us seemed like another block in the wall I should have constructed long ago. I eventually arrived at a viewpoint on the outskirts of town, a place where teenagers go to kiss and middle-aged men to ponder vanishing. I merely sat on my car's hood with a comforting can of soda and the sun setting behind the hills as if it were quitting early. I kept replaying that morning in my mind, her voice, her words, her gaze that suggested she still had ownership over something. However, this is what became clear to me eventually. Madison assumed I wouldn't depart. She believed I was reliable and consistent. Regardless of how much she eroded our trust, she expected my return every time with open arms and gentle eyes. I served as her safety net. That's why she didn't confess when it began. That's why she didn't cease. That's why she didn't show concern until I was gone. It wasn't love she lost. It was control, and that terrified her more than anything. I paused before dialing her blocked number. Not because I considered unblocking it, but because I recognized I no longer felt the urge to check on her. I wasn't waiting for a confession or an honest apology that would explain everything. Because now I knew there was nothing left unsaid. She had given her truth to someone else, her laughter, her kindness, her body, her time, her choice. And that was the line I couldn't cross. You don't accidentally cheat or habitually lie. You do so because you desire something more than your commitment to the person you vowed everything to. Madison craved a fresh audience, another mirror reflecting the self she had misplaced. I was the shattered reflection when I ceased to nod in agreement. In the ensuing days, I sought counsel from a divorce attorney, a reserved man named Grant who spoke in facts rather than sympathy. I told him I sought neither drama nor revenge, only an exit. He questioned if there were possibilities for reconciliation. I admitted there might be, but she employed it to open another's door. The paperwork was initiated the same day. I served her the notice via her work email, perhaps cold, yet necessary. She could weep to Derek or Claire or any other entangled in her chaos. I, however, had renounced absorbing her guilt. Strangely, I felt unburdened, not healed, not joyful, like letting out a breath I'd held for 2 years. She had said you were my home, but I came to see she hadn't constructed anything there. She merely moved in, rearranged the furnishings, and left when the floorboards began to groan. You're still here? Over 2 weeks after I submitted the divorce documents, I received a letter. Not an email or text message, but a handwritten one, as if it was 1994 and she was trying to win back a boy from summer camp. The envelope was simple, bearing no return address, just my name in her familiar script. I recognized it right away. I used to cherish her handwriting, those sharp little loops on every Y, the forceful dots she made on her eyes that threatened to tear the paper. This time, however, I scrutinized it as if it was a ticking clock. Inside, there was only one page, front and back, inked with blue ink. No salutation, no "Dear Kyle." She plunged straight into her message, as if we'd never ended our conversation. She wrote things like, "I know I mishandled things. In my longing to be desired once more, you stopped regarding me as extraordinary." She claimed it wasn't about replacing me. It was merely about feeling alive. Alive. That word, she used it as if I were a corpse in a morgue. She blamed the silence in our marriage, the routines for making her feel like a housemate. We had Drifter, and Derek found her lost in the fog. However, not even once in the entire letter did she express remorse. Not a single time. She discussed her guilt, her agony, her bewilderment. But she overlooked the man she abandoned, the man who lay beside her in bed while she conversed with someone else under the covers, the man who kissed her goodnight as he plotted his next deception. She admitted we were beyond repair. Yet she hoped I would remember her for more than just the worst thing she did. I folded the letter twice, then again, and I placed it on fire. No pomp, no fury. Just a lighter, a bowl, and a silent room. It crumpled inward, blackened, disintegrated into ashes within seconds. The truth she failed to comprehend is that this wasn't about reminiscing her. It was about recalling me, the person I used to be before the deception, before the seeds of uncertainty took root like decay, before every "I love you" echoed with a second voice in my head, whispering, "She lies." I realized I had been so engrossed in mending what she surreptitiously destroyed that I forgot how to exist beyond her. But now I recall the person I used to be who appeared for others, the one unafraid of intimacy, the one who held faith in the significance of words. And that man deserved more than a woman who sought his return merely because another no longer desired her. This was, in essence, what unfolded. Derek vanished or recoiled or simply grew tired. And when he did, she looked around and discovered there was no contingency plan. So she returned to the man she believed would always be present. However, not this time. This time, the door didn't merely secure itself. It vanished. She forfeited her final say the instant she surrendered her heart to another, failing to perceive it. Now she receives ashes, and I find tranquility. People claim healing isn't straightforward. That's accurate. However, what they neglect to mention is its ugliness. There are no artistic transitions, no melodious strolls, no soothing mornings filled with coffee in a sunlit kitchen helping you rediscover yourself. Instead, there's quietude, solitude, days of emptiness, nights when the weight crashes down like a freight train. A song you'd forgotten brings back memories, and there you stand, frozen, clutching the sink with both hands, questioning how she remains lodged in your mind even after I've removed every trace. And what's more frightening? The good days, the ones filled with unforced laughter, the ones where a full meal passes without contemplating her actions. And those days, they strike terror into your heart. As you begin to grasp that you're managing on your own, this insight is a mix of comfort and a sharp edge. If life can go on without her, if healing and rebuilding are possible, then what was the significance of all the anguish? What purpose did it serve? Why did it come close to shattering me? But then I recall, the objective wasn't the suffering. The objective was the liberation. Madison didn't fracture me. She uncovered me. She exposed the aspects of myself I deserted in order to keep her content. The edges I smoothed out, the concessions I made that became sacrifices, the truths I suppressed to dodge confrontation, the man I once was before she eroded me for convenience. Now I'm constructing that man anew, piece by piece, day by day. The divorce proceeded smoothly. She didn't oppose it. She didn't ask for anything. Perhaps because she knew she had already taken everything valuable, or perhaps because she had already slipped into another's arms, portraying herself as the one who was left behind. I don't care either way. I moved on, resuming my gym routine not for revenge or aesthetic reasons, but simply because it made me feel good, firm, alive. I rekindled relationships with friends I hadn't seen in a while. Many were hesitant about what to say, but one evening over drinks, Mason, a friend of mine, looked at me and said, "It seems like you're finally taking a deep breath." Indeed, it was the first time in years that I wasn't walking on eggshells due to someone else's emotions. I wasn't accommodating a shrinking space. I picked up reading again, started cooking again, went for morning walks just to feel the chill in my lungs. It wasn't joy. Not yet. But it was progress. One day, I encountered a couple laughing heartily on the street. It wasn't forced laughter, genuine laughter, the kind that makes your shoulders tremble and your head tilt back, forgetting you're in public. And I didn't feel jealousy or rage. I merely smiled. A subdued, tranquil smile for the first time since this ordeal started. I understood something I hadn't dared to dream of. I will be all right, not in a pretend my way to success manner, in a genuine, profound, earned way. This isn't due to finding someone new or mending the void she left behind. It is because I discovered myself anew amidst the ruins. And the self I found? It's stronger now, not embittered, not shattered, only more aware. It had been raining the last time I saw her. Not a romantic downpour or movie-like drizzle, but a persistent, bothersome rain that dampened my socks and obscured my windshield regardless of how fast the wipers moved. I was about to park in a supermarket lot, running low on coffee and paper towels when I spotted her, Madison. Exiting the store, she held one shopping bag against her chest. Her hair was wet and knotted in ways she never would have allowed before. No umbrella, no coat, only that same affected stance, as if defying the cold. Eyes locked momentarily, too fleeting for words. She acknowledged me, and I recognized her distress mixed with false bravado. I chose not to acknowledge her. She halted briefly before vanishing into the streaks of taillights and raindrops. Her bag held the remnants of life's acquisitions since we last met. Inside, I purchased my coffee. That was it. No climactic end, no emotional farewell, no heartfelt dialogue on our significance in each other's lives. We were merely two individuals crossing paths amidst a storm, united only by shared memories. As the night wore on, ensconced in my compact apartment above a cherished bookstore I seldom visited, the rain rhythmically tapped against the windows. A candle flickered, a vinyl record spun, a tasteless beer quenched an absent thirst, and thoughts of the past filled my mind. Not harshly, but rather trapped in the cycle of questioning. How could she do this to me? I took a step back and realized she didn't destroy me, she unveiled me. She exposed my overgiving tendencies, my expectations for too little in return, the aspects of myself that thought loyalty was a panacea for dishonesty's wounds. She showed me that love isn't a restraint, that being present doesn't equate to honesty, and that forgiveness without repentance is simply self-betrayal in disguise. Will I love again? Possibly. Can I trust again? Eventually. But this I know for sure. I will no longer allow someone to make me question my worth, to believe I'm only valuable if I'm easy to deceive. The lesson I learned, though painful, is indelible. So if you find yourself in my shoes, don't expect them to justify their actions. They might give you a shovel and call it closure. Don't chase insincere apologies, and never confuse quietness for tranquility. If something feels amiss for too long, it is. There's no need for a motive to depart from someone who has already vanished. What you require instead is the fortitude to shut the door. And once it's closed, do not reopen it. Not for an apology, not for nostalgia, not even for love. For the version of yourself that remains on the other side, the one that's still alive, still healing, still upright, that variation is sacred. Guard him forever.